Hey there, everybody. It's Mark Koep with CampgroundViews.com, bringing you another great destination for you to go discover in your RV or your tent. We're talking to Donna from True West Campground, Stables, and Mercantile in Jamestown, Tennessee. Thank you for joining us today, Donna.
Thank you, Mark, for inviting me.
So, Jamestown, Tennessee, where in the heck is that?
Well, we're in the middle of the mountains. We're definitely a destination to get to because it's more than an hour off of any highway. But once you get here, you just don't want to leave.
So, what makes the destination special? When you say mountains, you're in the Appalachians, right?
I know, we're on the Cumberland Plateau.
Okay.
So, um, what makes you want to stay here is, well, it's absolutely beautiful. We actually border Big South Fork River and recreational area. Um, and it's a great place for all the outdoor recreational activities you can think of. There's hiking, there's biking, there's mountain climbing, there's cliff climbing, there's canoeing, kayaking, swimming, rafting. I mean, you name it, pretty much you can do it. um, the uh, the park is 125,000 acres, and there are designated horse trails, so you only see horses on there. No motorized vehicles are allowed in the park at all. All 125,000, 24,000 acres is
Wow.
just, yeah, is just recreation, no motorized vehicles. It is
Wow.
also, the park itself is also one of the few parks in the US that have epic bike trails. So that means that there are mountain bike trails that are more than 5 miles long.
Wow. Very cool. Okay, so you're in a very neat spot. So I noticed you've got this, your park is campground, stables, and mercantile. So, and you got a photo of people on horses. Can they ride straight from camp out onto trails?
Absolutely. We don't rent horses here, but there is a business up the road that does that. You can take guided rides. Most people bring their own horses when they come camp with us. We've got 67 stalls in the back, and enough campsites and lodging to support all of the campers that come. We have also our other sister company called West Glam Frontier is actually all part of True West Campground, and that's glamping with
Hmm,
covered wagons and teepees.
very cool. I'm pulling that up right now as we go through this. So you have the Conestoga wagons and you have some
Yep.
teepees that, so if you don't have an RV, you don't have a tent, you can go stay in these cool accommodations out in this area of Tennessee. What's the elevation that you're at there?
Oh, good question. I know I looked it up at one point. I honestly don't know the answer to that question.
Do you get snow in
Uh,
the winter?
Very, very little snow. The average snowfall in Tennessee is about 8 inches, but it usually comes in like 1 inch increments. So you may get 1 inch, you might get two, but that's usually melted within a couple of days.
Are you open year round?
We are. Yep.
And so for camping, what do you offer? Is it RVs, tents? What do we got here for camping?
Yep, all of the above. We've got full hookup sites with 50 amp as well as 30 amp, and then the rest of our sites are 30 amp. Um, Most of our sites are grassy sites, so tents can go on any of those sites with the exception of the 7 full hookup sites because those are more gravel. And then in the West Glam Frontier section, we've got a nice big field that we could fit, 10, 12 tents in there. We're in the process also of putting in some glamping tents that are going to be out by the pond, so hopefully seeing that before the end of this year. Um, but we have most of our facilities, we've always been focused on the horses. So we're known for our hospitality. Um, so most people who have horses love True West. They'll come here, and as you mentioned earlier, you can ride right from the campground. We're the most centrally located private campground to Big South Fork. So when you ride from our campground, you can go left or right, and you hit trails. Goes through a private community for a mile or two, sometimes depending on which way you go. But then you're right inside the park. So
Wow. So is there you have Wi-Fi at the park there?
we have a Wi-Fi hotspot right now, but one of our improvements for this year we've got on the calendar for the end of April is to add Wi-Fi throughout the campground.
How is cell service up in this area?
Oh, cell service is very minimal. You cannot get it much out on the trails. We do have a Verizon hotspot, we call it. We have an extender, so
Okay.
you can come up to the main building. Most people do. We've got a big front porch with all kinds of rocking chairs, and a lot of people come up and do what we call their social marketing, or social media stuff. And we'll sit and chat with them. You can see that nice big porch there. We'll
Yeah.
sit and chat with them. and they'll download their pictures from the day and update their Facebook or their Instagrams or Twitters or whatever they have, um, and they can usually do that if they've got Verizon. Usually, it's harder with some of the other cell services, but
So it's a place to get away. I mean, and you got some pretty amazing photos here. What's the story on this place? Did you build it? Did you buy it? Where did this idea come from?
well, we bought it. This is our 10th season. We bought it. It was pretty run down. So we've built it back up and we've added amenities over the course of those 9.5 years. So it was called True West at the time. And we just kept the name because it just kind of fit. And then when we added, we purchased two acres of additional property next door to us last year. And that's where we started West Glam Frontier. So we're focusing a lot on the glamping and stuff there.
Very cool. So who's coming to you? Where is it? Are most of your guests from like the Nashville area, or are they coming from further out?
We get them from all over the United States. We get them, and actually Canada too. So we've had, I would like to have started a map at some point to say where all our guests are coming from, but they are coming from, I'd say probably almost every state in the US.
So on your website, you show a large truck carrying a big horse trailer. I'm guessing the park's accessible to any sized RV. If so, what's the best route they should go to get there and then get out of there?
Ah, okay. So yes, we do accept all large trailers, which is not sometimes not easy for some campgrounds. When horse trailers, when you take a look at what they're doing, they've got their living quarters in the beginning and they've got their horses in the back, which can make a very big trailer at times. So we can accept large trailers here. They can come in and out. We do not have pull-throughs. Every site, with the exception of exception of two, is a back-in site, but there's plenty of room for backing in. We are, as I said earlier, we are in the mountains, so the roads can be pretty windy in some places. Coming off of I-40 or I-75, there are some windy roads. We do have directions on our website that say if you're coming from the east, you don't want to come through 297 from the east because there are hairpin turns on that road, especially if you're pulling a large trailer. So we have alternate directions on our website so that people can get around that. It takes a little bit longer to get here for that, but at least it'll at least get you around what we call the gorge, which has 6 hairpin turns at a 13% grade. It can be quite taxing on a truck that doesn't have the right transmission or the right brakes, or if you're carrying a very large trailer. Getting around those hairpin turns would be very, very difficult.
So I notice on the satellite view, there's a lake kind of over here in the backdrop. Is that something that's accessible to the guests, or is that a separate property?
I know that's a separate property, but there is a small pond you'll see more towards the front. There's one there. Yep. And then actually you can't really see it here. Well, you can. It's kind of got a lot of green lilies on it, but there's a second pond. In both of those ponds there are fish in them, and we do allow fishing.
Oh, very cool. All right. So True West Campground, Stables, and Mercantile in Jamestown, Tennessee. If you're looking for a unique location, you don't need horses to go. If you have horses, great spot. It's in Tennessee. Sounds like a great spot. I think I'm going to go there too. So thank you, Donna, for your time today.
Thank you, Mark, and we hope you can make it someday.